Okay, hi everyone. So today I'm doing my video of some visuals on the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth of the military. It's a combination of some photos I took and then pictures from a scroll illustration from the early 17th century that I was introduced to when I had the opportunity recently to visit Poland. But if you are maybe new to this topic, this is the state that we'll be talking about, and my focus today is going to be mostly on the 16th and 17th century Polish-Lithuanian military, what they looked like. So, you get an idea if you want to paint miniatures in this area. But if you're new, this is the state we're talking about. So this is in 1580, and this is at a time when under the king Stefan Batory, both Poland and Transylvania were under a personal union. And Transylvania was normally an Ottoman vassal. This was one of the few times where Transylvania tried to be independent. And Stefan Batory was, of course, a Hungarian monarch, but he was the king of Poland at this time. Quite a good king of Poland and Transylvania, but that's a story for another time. And so the countries formed from the union of the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Principality or Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Of course, in this area it wasn't all Poles and Lithuanians. There was people, Ruthenes, which we would, basically the Ukrainians are descended partly from them. There were Cossacks, especially on the southern frontier with the Crimea, and of course many other smaller ethnic groups, both in the western part and the eastern part. And naturally, like any 16th century, 17th century state, they had a military. And finding information about this in English is really difficult. There are, of course, in Poland, many historians who write about the history of the Commonwealth, or as they call it, the Republic, some of them in Polish, but that doesn't always get translated. But there are a couple authors that write books about Poland. One very famous one, I've never read the book personally, but Norman Davies was one historian. And more recently, there's a scholar named Robert Frost, who has written about Poland-Lithuania and the Great Northern Wars that involved Poland, but also, of course, Russia and Sweden. But anyway, with that brief introduction, we'll go to the visuals. So, the first thing, this is from what is referred to as the Stockholm Scroll. So this is a large scroll, as you can imagine, that is from 1604, and it's depicting the wedding of King of Poland Sigismund III Vasa. The images I'm showing aren't the full scroll. I wasn't able to find the full scroll online, but the Wikimedia site has a lot of it, and I pulled the parts that actually show soldiers. Now, of course, this is, more ceremonial parade dress, but I think this gives a good impression of what the soldiers looked like in the main. So, again, this is 1604. So we have musketeers. I'm not sure what this banner is. or this banner, so I apologize. I don't know the exact context. We have some kind of officer here, but as you can see, if you've seen my Ottoman videos, the clothing of the soldiers in Poland and also Transylvania was quite similar to the Ottomans, especially the Janissary outfits. So this long, in Turkish they call it a kaftan. There's a different term for it in Polish, but same style of garment. They've got all carrying curved sabers, and we have some guys in the back with, I guess this would be a bardich or a large axe type weapon. Maybe some kind of sergeant or another officer with a mace, because as we can see, the mounted officer also carries a mace. And maybe, I guess this maybe is herald carrying the shield, and it looks like some kind of warhammer. So next, this is some members of the nobility. So this would be give you a good idea of what a commander for a Polish-Lithuanian wargaming army could look like. Got the very nice leopard skin. He's got the hussar wings mounted to the horse. This guy on the left. And we have here some other members of the Szlachta, the nobility. And they have, again, we have the kind of kaftan. They've got the kaftans, and then some of them have this cloak that sits over top of it, especially the one in green and the one in red on the right. And of course, a lot of horses. The Polish-Lithuanian army used a lot of cavalry, a lot of different types of cavalry. And they were quite effective against the Turks, especially because the Ottomans were very good at mounted warfare themselves, also the Crimean Tatars. But the Polish-Lithuanian military was able to go head-to-head with them and be pretty effective. This is another, from the scroll, another unit of soldiers, and they have green kind of uniform. As I look through this, I think this, I'm not sure what this yellow is, if it's the coat is turned back, or if it's some kind of, it may be some kind of sash. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe someone knows, but looks like also they're carrying wheel locks, which is interesting. So again, I mean, this is a parade for royal weddings, so these guys might be a little more ceremonially dressed, or more elite soldiers that could have wheel lock carbines or rifles, whatever the case may have been. We also see the headgear, kind of a fur. It's a fur cap with the feathers. So, and they're also uniform color, which is quite interesting, because not all artists, as we'll get to in a moment, depict them this way. We have another magnate here. Again, he's got the cloak over top, and there's his herald, and he's carrying the mace as a sign of rank. So very Eastern style of dress for the soldiers, and the noble and military clothing. The Hungarians, or the Transylvanians in particular, kind of over time kind of adopted the Turkish kind of style, and then it spread from Hungary to Poland, and Hungary and Poland have had, at least especially in this period, had pretty close relations at various points. Okay, so now we'll move to this is the Winged Hussars, very famous, of course. This image is kind of grainy, but let's zoom in and try and look. As you can see, they've got the wings. I've read before that it's not clear if they had the wings on the horses all the time, or if it was a just a ceremonial thing. Like this, you would probably want to look really good for a big royal wedding. But we've got the red shields, they've got the plate mail on top, so kind of similar to the cuirassier that you would see in Western Europe around the same time of the late 16th century and 17th century, kind of the heavy armor. Of course, the hussars use lances. They're kind of heavy shock cavalry. They've got sabers. This guy here on the far right, with the pelt on. You can see his saber clearly. We've also got this kind of square style shield, and it looks like, according to this artist, the artist of the Stockholm Scroll, they're pretty uniform. So that's interesting. I think some people, we're talking about 16th, 17th century military. There's an idea that there are no uniforms ever, or they didn't try to look uniform. But at least in this case, there seems to have been an attempt to make them look uniform. And they've also got the hussars here also have a darker pelt, so I'm not sure what animal that could be from, or if it was maybe it's a different garment altogether. I'm not sure. So those are the hussars. I didn't see any other types of cavalry regiment in the pictures from the scroll that were online, but of course, if people want to make Polish-Lithuanian Wargaming army, they want to put on hussars in them. Want to put hussars in them, I should say. Unfortunately, when I was in Warsaw at the By Fire and Sword shop, they did not have any hussars on the rack, so I was a little disappointed. But that's okay. I'll probably go back and get some in the near future. Okay, so that's the scroll. I think we have one more. Do I have one more pick? No. This is a painting from the 18th century. As you can see, it's got kind of a Baroque style. So I apologize for the lighting on these images, because I took these myself, and so the lighting in the building was a little off. This was from the palace of Stanislav August II, who was the last king of Poland during the final partition in 1795. But this painting depicts a meeting of the Polish nobility, and it's interesting because obviously this is much later than the Stockholm Scroll, but we can see kind of the difference in styles. We have some soldiers in the more typical Baroque Western soldier style of the time, with the turned back coats and the gaiters. But here we have some Polish lancers, because they've got, looks like they've got a quiver, or yeah, it looks like that's like an Eastern style quiver on the guy in the middle with the gray tunic, and they're carrying lances. So kind of two different types of dress there. This is another scene from the painting part of the painting. This is a really big painting, and I forget the title, so I apologize if you wanted to look it up for yourself. But you may be able to find it if you look up the Palace of Stanislav August. So we have looks like a hussar or some other type of armored cavalryman. He's got the heavy top armor with the segments that come down on his thighs a little bit, and he's got the wings attached to his armor. You can kind of see but they're a bit small compared to other depictions. But here we have all different colors and kinds of Polish noble garments, but again, same kind of Eastern style that you would expect from maybe Turkey or Persia. That was actually popular in the 18th century in Poland. There was an idea called Sarmatism, and it was an idea that Poles came from this ancient culture called the Sarmatians that lived in what is today Eastern Europe, and so that was a big reason for why this kind of dress was continued to be popular in the 18th century, essentially. Although, of course, Polish nobles and Polish people also wore the Western kind of style clothing as well. But this is, and then we have this one magnate in blue. He's got the hammer. Looks like a bow and quiver. So you can definitely see the steppe kind of influence there. So next we have another scene from the painting. And here it looks like we have soldiers that are kind of uniformly dressed. So they've got a blue and kind of yellow clothing. They've got the cloak, and then the kind of the kaftan over underneath that. And again, I apologize for the lighting, but you can see one of the soldiers here has got his musket and blue, yellow, and red. But also here we have some cavalrymen, because it looks like this guy with the red cap and yellow tunic has a pistol on his horse. Could be a cavalryman, it could be another member of the Schlachte. So, but this is the most interesting detail to me, is we have clearly some soldiers standing guard that are also have uniform colors on. So this is the 18th century. This is an 18th century painting, so it's a bit later, but it's notable that in the Stockholm Scroll from 1604 we have some uniformity among the soldiers, and and then we have it here in the 18th century. So it seems the idea, or that it was present earlier, and then it wasn't introduced in the 18th century when states started to have more regular uniforms. Okay, we have another part of the painting. These are the nobles kind of deliberating, it looks like. Nothing really super interesting here, other than we have more of the the Sarmatian style, or the the kind of the Eastern style of dress, and they have these wool caps on, and many of them are carrying have swords on their belt. Okay, well, I I hope these are all the images I have so far. I hope if you've made it to the end of the video, I hope you enjoyed this little visual tour of some Polish-Lithuanian military and nobility. I hope maybe this is helpful for your miniature painting. If you would like to see more of this kind of thing, I did review a book done by a Hungarian illustrator that was the armies of Transylvania. It's an older video. I did the video 1 or 2 years ago, I think now. Time has flied on the channel anyway. But the soldiers in Transylvania and Poland, Lithuania in this late 16th, early 17th centuries looked quite similar. So if you go to my review for that and even want to pick out that book online, I'm sure it's on Amazon, that would be a useful resource as well. I forget the illustrator's name. I believe it's Georgi Hazai, if I remember correctly. Well, anyway, I hope you guys found this informative, and I will try maybe and do another one of these when I get some other visuals. Yeah, I hope you liked it, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.